Kenobi just dropped, and boy is it good. There is a whole lot to get through here, so let's just get straight into it. We begin with the events of Order 66 with a bunch of younglings training on that fateful night. Training the younglings is Jedi Master Minas Belti. Not much is known about her other than that. This particular scene in Order 66, I think, is a bit of an origin story for the Inquisitor Reva, who at this point in time must have been one of these younglings. So the show might be giving us a bit of a clue to the tragic backstory of the Inquisitor. Given that Inquisitors are former Jedi, this would be no surprise at all. We then cut to 10 years later in Mos Eisley, where the Inquisitors are just arriving to hunt down a reported Jedi. We are then introduced to the Grand Inquisitor, the fifth brother, and Reva, who is of course the third sister. During the scene in which the Inquisitors try to goad the Jedi out of hiding, you can briefly see some lightsaber markings on the wall of the saloon, hinting that whatever incident took place before must have involved the Jedi using his lightsaber, hence attracting the attention of the Inquisitors. Really just a cool little detail. As the Inquisitor tries to goad the Jedi out of hiding, he says,
"Maybe he's looking for people like him."
Notice that the Grand Inquisitor uses the word he, implying that he actually knows who he is looking for, and is really just toying with his prey. And so the Grand Inquisitor toys with the Jedi until it is interrupted by Reva's impatience. We then see a weird looking beast from a distance. Upon closer inspection, this would be in fact a krayt dragon. More specifically, the fin of a krayt dragon, and we do know from the Mandalorian that the meat of the dragon is definitely edible. As the workers finish up for the day and collect their pay, one of the workers complains that his pay has been cut, and while the boss is clearly exploiting his workers, Kenobi doesn't really do anything about it, which just goes to show that over the last 10 years Kenobi has really changed and is disillusioned with his role as a Jedi. Kenobi heads back into town and proceeds to feed his Eope. Eopes are mammalian herbivores native to the planet Tatooine, and are often used as transports by the planet's natives. Not sure what Kenobi is feeding the Eope here, but I do hope that it's not krayt dragon meat. Kenobi returns to his man cave, which is actually a completely different place to where he will eventually live in A New Hope. In A New Hope, Kenobi lives in a proper home, whereas here he lives in a cave. So perhaps by the end of the show, he will eventually find a proper place to live. He is then visited by a Jawa by the name of Tika, who sells him a toy. The toy is actually a model of the T-16 Skyhoppers, and it first appeared in A New Hope, where Luke can be seen playing with it. And so this toy here that Kenobi buys and later gives to Luke is the very same one. The Jawa then mentions about Anchorhead, which refers to a small town on Tatooine. This is the same town that was explored in the Book of Boba Fett and was featured in a deleted scene in A New Hope. A couple of scenes later, we see Kenobi spying on Luke from afar, and during this time, Luke suddenly disappears before reappearing, pretending to be a fighter pilot. And this scene really just mirrors Anakin and draws a lot of similarities with his sister Leia. Much like his father, Luke has the same spacefaring aspirations, and much like his sister, has a real tendency to run off without telling anyone. Kenobi later meets the Jedi named Nari, and here Kenobi is faced with some really hard questions about who he is and what has become of him. And there is clearly an immense disappointment from the Jedi who had tracked Kenobi all the way to Tatooine. It really just goes to show how the events of the prequels have really affected Kenobi. We then cut to the gorgeous scenery of Alderaan, and the image of Alderaan really evokes the scenes that we see in Star Wars The Old Republic, which features a really similar environment and building design. We are then introduced to Leia's adopted mother, named Breha Organa, Queen of Alderaan. It is soon revealed that the princess in question is not Leia but a decoy, a sort of callback to her own biological mother's past of using decoys. We then find Leia in the middle of the woods, and I have to say this depiction of a young Princess Leia is spot on. All the credit really goes to the actress here. We then hear Leia say,
"I'm an Aquilian ranger, probably scouting for Mersan pirates."
While not much is known about what the Aquilian is, the Mersan pirates were a group of pirates that were particularly active during the period of the Clone Wars. The group, alongside several other pirate groups, were hired by the Separatists to harass Republic supply lines. We are then introduced to Bail Organa, played by the very same actor who played him in the prequels, Jimmy Smits, and C-3PO of course makes a very brief cameo as well. And it's no surprise that C-3PO makes an appearance here, as the ownership of the droid was handed over to Bail Organa in Revenge of the Sith. Leia gets kidnapped by a bounty hunter named Vect, which forces the Organas to reach out to Kenobi appealing for help. Kenobi eventually relents and goes to retrieve his lightsaber. As he does so, you can also see the hilt of Anakin's lightsaber in the box, which is of course later given to Luke. The chapter ends with Kenobi preparing to leave the planet, and looking at the spaceport, it looks remarkably similar to the spaceport in Mos Espa that we see in the book of Boba Fett. So this might actually be Mos Espa instead of Mos Eisley, or the production team just decided to reuse the set. So that was the complete breakdown of Chapter 1 of Kenobi. While not a lot of action, it was still a very great episode with plenty of character details and a lot of old faces. But there's no time to waste as we are on to the breakdown of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 kicks off with Kenobi traveling to the planet Daiyu. It has been confirmed that Daiyu is a planet very much inspired by Hong Kong, and there are certainly some close similarities. As Kenobi arrives on the planet, he's greeted by a clone trooper. Judging by the clone's armor, this clone definitely was a member of the 501st Legion, the very same legion that stormed the Jedi Temple, and the same legion that Anakin commanded during the Clone Wars. So Kenobi seeing the clone definitely brought back some painful memories. Seeing the clone trooper begging for change on the street actually reflects the changing nature of the Empire. It reflects the Empire's transition away from clones to regular human conscripts, and since this is a clone, it naturally calls for a cameo from Tamura Morrison. Kenobi gets approached by a girl asking if he wants to buy some spice, which really is just a callback to the scene in Attack of the Clones, where Kenobi is asked if he wants to buy some death sticks. Not exactly sure why, but Kenobi really does seem to attract a particular type of character. We are then introduced to Kumail Nanjiani's character, who plays essentially a fake wannabe Jedi. It's pretty clear that while his character exploits the poor, he does idealize the Jedi in some way. Kenobi receives the necessary information and heads to what looks like a spice lab that really just screams Breaking Bad. Causing a commotion, he gets into a fistfight with two goons, with one of them being a Zabrak. It's here that Kenobi cuts his hand, hitting the Zabrak due to the Zabrak's naturally spiky head. Kenobi rescues Leia, and this entire scene really is just a callback or a call forward to the time Luke saved Leia on the Death Star. We get to see a power struggle between the Inquisitors, which is no surprise given their nature. The Grand Inquisitor refers to Reva as
All the power in the world can't mask the stench beneath.
likely a reference to the fact that unlike the rest of them, Reva was never a fully fledged Jedi, having only been a youngling. During this fiery encounter, Reva responds,
Maybe that stench is your failure.
And there is really a double-layered meaning here. On the surface, she is referring to the Grand Inquisitor's failure to capture Kenobi, but if you dig a little deeper, she's actually referring to the events of Order 66. The Grand Inquisitor, before working for the Empire, was in fact a temple guard charged with the defense of the temple. And so, the failure of the temple guard to protect the other Jedi and younglings, such as a young Reva, in turn led her down this path. And so, the stench in this case is in actuality the result of his failure to stop the clones. We cut back to Kenobi telling Leia,
Farmers from Tall, and you're my daughter.
The planet Tall refers to an acidic planet located in the Outer Rim and home to many hostile creatures, so I'm not exactly sure how farming would work there. We get our first look at Forlom in the background. Forlom is of course a bounty hunter that first appeared in A New Hope, tasked by Vader to hunt down the Millennium Falcon. And we also see Princess Leia in a green outfit, which really is just a reference to her outfit in the Return of the Jedi. As Leia ends up falling off a building, Kenobi has to reach out with the Force for the first time in 10 years, and you can see the strain on his face due to the years of no practice. Forlom gets shot in the back by Estri, but not to worry, since he is a droid, he can be easily revived, and given his appearance later in A New Hope, it is safe to say that he is far from dead. Estri tells them to head to the planet Mapuzo, which is a planet first introduced in Legends. Not much is known about the planet other than that. Kenobi tells Leia,
Nothing, you just remind me of someone. She was fearless too, and stubborn.
This is likely a reference to her biological mother, Padme. I thought that it could potentially be a reference to Duchess Satine, another old friend of Kenobi with very similar traits, but Padme is probably the best fit here. The third sister reveals to Kenobi that Anakin is still alive and Obi-Wan is clearly in shock. The acting here is really superb, and immense credit to Ewan McGregor for pulling this off. The revelation of Vader's survival also reveals that the third sister knows way too much, and there's plenty of questions as to how she knows this, especially given that Vader doesn't tell anyone about his secret, and those who know tend to be dead soon after. In a surprising twist, the Grand Inquisitor is stabbed by the third sister, but if you watch Rebels, you know that this is not the end for the Grand Inquisitor. At the end, we finally get a Vader reveal, and it just sends chills down my spine. So that is the breakdown for chapter 1 and 2. I have really enjoyed the show so far. The writing was superb, and I really do look forward to the next one. Anyways, that's all for this video. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.